And we are live. Good evening, Meticulous Moments audience. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Meticulous Moments podcast, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And this evening, we have the wonderful privilege of spending time with the amazing Bill Clark. And he's here live with me in the green room. But before we bring him on, I'm going to read you his bio. You may have seen world champion, world record holding powerlifter, Guinness Book of World Records title holder, professional strongman, martial arts instructor, and motivational speaker Bill Clark on ESPN, Fox News, CNN, or on Fox 40 Weeks TV's Monday Motivation. Bill is also featured in the Ripley's Believe It or Not museums around the world and has been on national and international TV shows and programs. Some of Bill's world records include a 570-pound bench press, 740-pound deadlift, and a 355-pound bench press for 31 reps in less than a minute, ripping 29 license plates in two and bending 7 steel railroad spikes to an angle greater than 90 degrees in 1 minute. Bill was featured on the inside cover of the 2020 Guinness Book of World Records and on the Times Square Jumbotron with Mariah Carey in New York City. Bill has been inducted into a number of halls of fame, including the World Hall of Fame and the Creator Binghamton, I hope I said that correctly, Sports Hall of Fame. Bill was named one of the strongest men to ever walk the planet. And he's also a first-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, submission wrestling, and self-defense instructor, and owns Bill Clark Strengths, where he trains people in optimal mental and emotional mindset and performance, powerlifting, and weightlifting. And we just want to say welcome to our special guest. It's such an honor to have you with us.
Well, thank you very much for having me, my friend Juanita. And believe me, it's an honor to be with you today. So thank you for the invitation.
I appreciate that, Bill. I almost read destructor instead of instructor. And I'm wondering now, as we're going into this session, what nicknames have you developed? Have people given you over the years because of your brute strength?
Yeah, so I have. There've been a number of nicknames. I think Bull, of course, Bull because Bill, right? So Bull, why not? Yeah, one of my favorite ones, but I'm very apprehensive to use it because because it's almost I don't want to be like sacrilegious, but Godzilla, after Godzilla the monster, so Godzilla. I always thought that was pretty clever, and it's an honor to be called a living legend. I'm not, I can assure you of that. But if other people say it, then it's very nice. But I think the Godzilla one just has a certain ring to it. But again, I don't like to promote it because there's only one God, and I would be nothing without God. So I thank Jesus Christ, God Almighty, for giving me some talent and giving me the greatest of coaches in the world that would help me to do this. And and I'm not trying to be overly humble here, but the truth is I am absolutely nothing special. Just a product of God's love and God's direction. So
that's it. That's it.
But yeah, I suppose
yeah.
But yeah, I guess those would be some of those nicknames that people have thrown at me over the years,
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, the other one was the Strangler, because of in jiu-jitsu, I won our award. It's not like, but I was part of the culture of jiu-jitsu is that you're adding to the curriculum. So
yes.
So because you don't do it without your training partner. You have to have people to test it on and everything else. So I was able to come up with we're able to come up with a couple new chokeholds and different ways to apply them with the gi and without the gi. So they kind of nicknamed me the Strangler, which is that's okay. That's as long as we don't have to use it in real life, it's okay.
I'm guessing you like to do the rear neck stranglehold and maybe the guillotine. And we learned also there's a difference between a choke and a strangle. Would you like to explain to the audience what's the difference between a choke and a strangle?
Sure. Yeah. So the choke is where you are cutting off blood supply, and the strangle is where you're cutting off airflow. So yes, it's you have it exactly right. So one is you're cutting off the blood supply to the brain, which makes you take a nap. And then the other one is strangle's a little more brutal because you're locking them in pretty good across the airways too. It's kind of hard to have a strangle, in my opinion, without having a choke too. So you kind of get both of them going on, so you want to cover your bases, right?
That's it. You want to make sure they stay down.
Yes.
I love jiu-jitsu as well. And you are so, you're already a fifth degree in that. That's amazing accomplishment. And I hear you and I agree with you. If it wasn't for God, we would be nothing today. We can't do anything without God. I just want to say to you, Bill, from our side and the audience and everyone that knows and loves you, you are a legend to us because you've done so many things, to inspire people. That's what you do.
You know what? I am so sorry, but I think the audio on my computer is not very good either. So I'm so sorry. Would you be able to? I'd be happy to, answer anything. I just wasn't able to understand the question.
No, that's good. I hear feedback from your computer. Do you have any other apps open?
Okay, I'm trying
Can
to
you
find.
hear me?
I can. Yes. Now. Yep.
Let me. Okay, it's gone. It's still there a little bit, but it's okay. I wanted to say, I understand what you're saying that God is, we can't do anything without God. Absolutely. But I just want to say, on the side from the audience, we do see you as a legend because you inspire people wherever you go.
Well, thank you very kindly. One thing I will say is, this is a partnership with God too, right? I mean, that's why we're here because we have to do things. Pardon me. And I think everybody's a leader. The question is, where are we taking people? So everybody's a leader. You're influencing. We are all influencing people every moment of every day, and some people are taking people in the wrong directions. We call that bad leadership, right? And I think it's our responsibility, and it's a privilege to be able to represent. I've always thought that it was not just a responsibility, but a privilege. And if on every inside of every the inside of every USA jacket I have, which I was so proud to represent, I have written on the inside collar of every one of my jackets, God, family, country, friends, represent. And so I believe that you're going to be interacting with people all over the world if you're fortunate enough to be in a position like this. So you want to make sure you're helping to take, everybody to the best places that they can be. And to me, that goes way beyond the borders of a country, right? I mean, we're all in this thing together here. So treat each other well. And I think if you're blessed to be, strong, and I'm not necessarily talking about physical strength, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, then I think we're in a better position to be kind because we don't have that hurdle of insecurity that we have to get over before we can do this. So
that's it.
I'm honored to be, if people think of me as a leader, I'm truly very honored. I just always want to make sure that I do this job very, very well. And again, take people to the best places that they can be.
And that's wonderful because that speaks to authentic leadership and a genuine, drive to make the world a better place. I think if you mute, let's check if you mute, if I'm speaking, maybe it will take the echo away. Let's try and see if that works.
How do I do that, Juanita? I'm so bad.
No, that's fine. You just click on that little microphone. Let's see if it will take the echo away.
Microphone. Oh, right here where it says mute?
That's it.
The one that says mute? Yeah, okay. See, I'm the guy that'll run around the barn 10 times and realize that there's a door that you're supposed to go in. That's because to the window, you know. Okay.
So we're gonna play ping pong here. I'll mute and then you mute as we converse. I think that's what's making the echo. Let's see if that works.
Okay. All right. So when you talk, I'm going to have to listen, and I'll mute me.
Yes, and I'll do vice versa. Yeah,
Okay.
teamwork.
You just point, and I'll mute. How's that?
Okay, let's try it.
Okay.
Let's hear. I think the echo. So there we go. There we go. Amazing, amazing. Well, we talked about a lot of things when we were on the virtual coffee, and you just shared so many amazing stories. I would like for you to share anything that you would like to share with the audience, growing up, or later in life, or during your competition years. Share with us, please.
I think I got this now. I'd like to say I'm a quick learner, but I think we all know different, but that's okay. Um, I think one of the things I would share with everybody is that where you start out is not where you finish. Growing up as a kid, my parents were wonderful people, beautiful people. My dad died when I was a boy. My mom suffered from a tremendous illness, and she'd have to be gone. I'm talking now when I was in fifth grade, sixth grade. She would have to go away, and that would leave me in the house by myself. And as we know, that fifth grade young man, by himself, could be a little shaky sometimes. And we didn't have much money. The heat was turned off in the house. So, January, February is very cold, especially in Binghamton, New York. So, the cold shower became a normal to me. And I always like to tell people that, if you watch people, they'll go test the water with their feet, right? They go test the water when they go into a pool to see what the temperature is. I already knew what was coming. I already knew it was going to be freezing cold. I already knew that. I didn't have to test anymore because that's the life I knew. And that's a product of conditioning. But as you go through your life, you have the ability to recondition and move beyond the settings that you're presently in. So I think that is one of the most important lessons that I could share with anybody is that you're not stuck. You're not trapped. You're not a victim. You can move. You have the ability to move. If you don't like your life, change it. Find the things that you have the ability to do. Go out, surround yourself with people that know a little more than you do. That's why we have coaches, right? And you keep moving forward. And where you start out is not where you end. It's a process. It can be a very challenging process, but that's half the fun, right? It's to overcome the difficulties of life and move to the best you could possibly be, regardless of what it is, because we can't do everything great. But I truly believe everybody out there can be great at something. But you got to find it. You got to get coaching. You got to learn how to do things the right way so that you're optimal. Because if you're not, you can try as hard as you want, and you could be actually training yourself the wrong way, and you'll never reach your best. So now you get people around you that can help you get to the top of your mountain.
I agree with you, Bill, and I believe that you and I make a very good team because we just decided to put the system in place and look how well it's flowing along. When you talked about that story when we were in the virtual coffee, it really it was heart wrenching to hear, and at the same time, your testimony was so edifying because you went through all of that, and today you are working in the world globally, helping so many people. And you did exactly what you explained just now. You found those strengths of yours, not just physical strengths, but all the other strengths that you have, and these capabilities and these gifts that God gave you. And you are using them out there to better society, to better humankind. And you have amazing topics that you talk about worldwide, and I want to touch on a few of those because I love the captions that you listed here. And I'm just going to go down the list. Let's talk about why motivation fails, if you'd elaborate on that for us.
Yes, so motivation, everybody loves motivation because you want to do it. That's the definition. It's a chemical, right? It's an emotion. The problem with motivation is that it doesn't last. Just like you can't cry or laugh forever, the nervous system just will not allow it. So you will not stay motivated forever. I mean, I'm speaking from myself and every other athlete I know. You just can't stay motivated. And if you're relying on that, it's going to sell you short. You're not going to make it. And I will tell you, I train 3 times a day. I'm up at 4:30 in the morning for my first training session of the day. And I can promise you that 4:30 in a cold, dark January, February day, when I don't have an event coming up, it's brutally difficult. I mean, it's cold. I just want to turn over and go to bed. But I don't, because I've made the choice that my mission is more important than my excuses. So when I wake up, I turn around, I put my feet on the floor, which drives probably everybody in my house nuts. But I put my feet on the floor firmly. That's my cue that I'm not passively engaging in this day. I'm going to go out and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to make myself and everybody around me better. So I hit those feet on the floor. I turn around. I say my prayers. I go into the bathroom. I brush my toothbrush, and then I'm right down to the gym to start training. But there are plenty of days when I don't want to. But discipline is the key, not motivation. But I have good news. Once you start and you create these neural pathways, you build the habit, right? That's what a habit is. It's just the going over and over and over of a neural pathway until it becomes so ingrained in you that you really don't know what else to do. And once this happens, the motivation will come. For example, this morning, I got up to train. I didn't want to get up this morning to train, but I did. But once I got moving, I thought, okay, now we got this going on. You have to actively engage in the power of your will. Once that happens, motivation will follow you, but you shouldn't be following motivation. It's going to take you bad places. You have to make motivation follow you. And you do that through power of the will. You make a decision. I don't care what happens. I didn't sleep well last night. I only got 2 hours of sleep. Okay. Then you get up and you make yourself better. And this is something I learned from one of my great coaches, the world's strongest man winner, Don Reinhardt. Love the man to death. He's a big brother. He's like a dad. He's just an amazing human being. And Don was the one that kind of really taught me this, that Bill, every day you get up and train when you don't want to, you're leaving somebody else in the dust, because they're going to go through the same thing you are. Human nature is human nature. There's going to come a point where you don't want to do it. And this is not the curse. It's the blessing, because it's the opportunity. It's the opportunity to move ahead, because you know the other people just aren't going to do it. That's your chance to either gain ground on somebody who's doing a little better than you or take over. So I always tell people, do not rely on motivation. Make it chase you. Don't you chase it.
I absolutely love that. And that's speaking to me, on such a deep level, because I'll tell you what happened to me this week. I absolutely love martial arts training. I love it. I go every day. I make sure, I don't care if I've slept 2 hours or 1 hour, and that happens often. I'm there. Even if I have to yawn here and there, but I'm there. And, it's like you said, the moment that we start, we're okay. We're there. And yesterday I was on my way from the farm to the office in town, and I had a flat tire, and it was late afternoon. My daughter had a stomach ache, and I was trying to get to the pharmacy before training. And here the sun started setting, and we stopped on the highway. And I couldn't for the life of me get the nuts of the wheel off. I'm so stiff today, and I'm trying to get that off, and I'm in a rush. And long story short, people came to assist me, and everything was fine, and we got going. But something in the back of my mind said, "Oh my goodness, you've had such a eventful afternoon. Maybe you should just skip training today." And I said to myself, "No." I made a promise to myself I will be at training every single time I can, and I'm going. And I went. And when I stepped in, I was proud of myself, because I could have easily used it as an excuse. And today I went, I was here at the office, and we had training, and I was on my way, and it was super, super cold. Like they're talking about snow, and the rain was falling. And I also thought, oh, it's so cold. Should I go? I still have this and this. And I said, I'm going. But I hear your point about how motivation fails because we are all human beings. We all have, those days. Sometimes we're tired, we're not slept out, and then the discipline kicks in. So that's a wonderful point that you made. I want to touch on the next topic. And this is very interesting. I found this very interesting as a topic for speaking that you do. Why reaching for success could be teaching you to fail. Success versus excellence. Please tell us more about that.
Well, first of all, I hope your daughter's doing okay. I hope your daughter's doing better. Yeah, thank God. Um, yes. So you know what? This is something that success. If you look at the definition of success, it will say the meeting of an objective. But what that definition doesn't tell you is that success is always at the mercy of the variables by which we measure it. Always. So if I teach, and I always tell people when I speak, one of my favorite things to do is say, look, I promise everybody in here that I can slam dunk a basketball, and so can you. Now, I used to be able to, be honest with you, even though I'm only 5'8", but I can jump. And I'll tell everybody can slam dunk a basketball if you take my course. So people will go, okay, now I'm speaking. I'm just joking here with people to get them to go, no, it's impossible. It's not impossible. Look, here's what I do. I change the variables in the equation of success, and I drop the net from 10 feet down to 3. Now you're slam dunking a basketball, but you're still no good. Sorry. If anybody could do this at 3 feet, I shouldn't say you're no good, but I think you understand what I mean. You're slam dunking a basketball with a net 3 feet high. What have you accomplished? Yet you were successful because I changed the variables in the equation. Instead, what I would suggest is stop shooting for success and start aiming for excellence. Excellence is the very best you can be. It's an optimal engagement. Everything is right. Your mind is right. Your emotions are right. You're physical. You're the best you are physically. And I'm a big believer that you can overcome physical difficulties with an excessive strength in the mind. And I have some stories about that too, what we can share maybe later on. But success, if you're not careful, it will teach you to sabotage. It will sabotage your success. It will sabotage your ability to perform at your best because you can keep lowering the standards to make it happen. Well, if you keep dropping those, then you're teaching yourself to underperform simply so that you can meet an objective. And that's not going to take you to the very best that you can be. So excellence is always preferable to success. Success is fine as long as it matches up with excellence. But if it doesn't, then we're not our best. And I always tell, and this is another quick analogy that I will use. We'll talk about a professional hockey team that goes and plays a high school team. Okay, well, the professional hockey team can play absolutely terrible, but they're professional and they're going to beat the high school team because their talent is so much higher. So they can perform horrifically and still succeed. But were they excellent? And the answer is no, not unless you are optimal through the entire process. So I'm a big believer in pursuing excellence, not success. As a matter of fact, I will promise people this. If you shoot for excellence, you will never have to worry about success. You'll never have to chase success around. Success will chase you. If you're excellent, you'll never have to worry about being successful. It'll find you. It'll come to you. You just keep being patient, stay the course, and keep being optimal through the entire process. Remember, excellence doesn't mean that you don't miss the mark every once in a while. Champions, I always like to say champions define victory a little bit differently, right? Or failure, excuse me. Some people say failure is missing the objective. I don't believe that at all. Failure is missing the opportunity. So I don't care how well you play or what you do, you could win 100-0. Is there something to improve on? Because that's what makes you excellent. Success is tough because it can, and as I've already said, it can sabotage your pursuit of excellence, but it can also condition you to accept less than you're capable of. And I just, I hate to see this because I see so many people that have tremendous amounts of talent, but they stop at success when they could be so much better. It's not whether or not you broke the world record. The question is, how much did you break it by?
I love that. That's the absolute truth. And yes, we have to, challenge ourselves more and more and pursue that excellence, and then the success will follow. I love that. That is absolutely true. And, that pursuing excellence really involves a lot of hard work, dedication, discipline, like we've mentioned. And it's an ongoing thing because there's always something more, something bigger, or something greater to do. That's what I love. And also I spoke with another interviewee this afternoon, and they mentioned that saying no out of fear keeps you in the same place, but saying yes to new adventures, new avenues, new possibilities helps you to develop. It shapes your character, and it opens up so many avenues for you to learn more about yourself. Now I know you have amazing stories to share. Would you like to share about your world records that you broke? I'm still trying to figure out how you tore 29 license plates in under a minute. My goodness.
Yeah, so there's a long story behind this, but the professional strongman that had the record before I did had 20, and I went and I practiced and practiced, and I'll tell you again, going back to this concept that where you start out is not where you end up. The first time I tried to rip a license plate, and with all the greatest humility in the world, because I will say it again and again and again, I'm absolutely nothing special. But I was able to bench press over 500 pounds. I thought tearing a license plate would be easy. It was not. As a matter of fact, it didn't rip. The thing just kept bending and bending and bending. And so I was frustrated. And I talked to my buddy, my mentor, Don Reinhout. I said, Don, this thing, what's the deal with this? And he's like, Bill, you just got to stay with it. I practiced and practiced. And then one day the thing, and I'll tell you, in terms of being optimal, this is how I did it. I would film myself and I would take a camera, I would take the close up of where my grip was on the license plate. So if it didn't work, then I knew not to do that grip again. And I kept playing around and playing around. I'm telling you, probably about a month of doing this every day, the thing finally started to like snap. And I was like, I was just thrilled. All the hours of training. And I just wanted to rip one. I wasn't even thinking world record at that time. I just wanted to rip one. But I wanted to do it in such a way that I could take it to a demonstration, and have there be no doubt that when I took these license plates, I was going to rip it. I didn't want any questions. I knew that, look, even if it doesn't, sometimes they don't. If my technique is bad, the license plate will bend, and then it's much harder because it almost compounds itself. So then you're like fighting with two license plates. So but I still get them, even when they give me a hard time because I didn't do the right thing. License plates are all the same. It's not their fault. But I learned how to do it, and then I got good enough, I suppose, where I could take it and do it at will. And then I had an agent because I had written a book, and the agent said, Bill, there's a world record for this thing. And I thought, really? So I found out what it was, and I thought, you know what, I'm doing this. Let me practice. So it's illegal in New York State to have license plates without the permission of the government. So, because they don't want people putting license plates on and driving around and committing crimes. So I got permission and I started practicing and practicing. And then we did the record and I did 23 in a minute. And I still wasn't happy with it. Again, success, but not excellence. I still wasn't happy with it. So I came home and practiced and practiced and practiced and kept doing it. Now I'm talking about license plates. Please don't try this at home because these things are sharp. When you rip them, they're like razors. I have scars all over my arms. Can't see them. I have scars all over my arms and up in my bicep, tore right through my shirt. I've had stitches. I've had infections. Um, these things are no joke. So now when I go doing it at a demonstration, I could take my time, because I'm not under a clock. So I could take my time a little more. But when you're trying to break a world record and do the very best you can, that's the price you pay. So I knew that going into it. But yes, that is the story of the license plates. And now I'm looking at breaking several more world records too. So it'll be, I'm training very, very hard for this too. So it'll be a good time.
So that's wonderful. I did not realize that they are that sharp, when you tear them. I didn't even think of that. And I want to ask you, what other world records are you training for? We are curious to know what's up next.
So I've got a couple with decks of cards, and I take a stack of two, so it's 112 playing cards because they have jokers and rules, and then I will tear both stacks of cards. As a matter of fact, I do have one deck here. If you'd like me to tear it on the show for you, I'd be happy to do it. Yes. So that's one record. Then another one is the fastest time to tear 15, or the record is 30 seconds. And a great, he did a marvelous job with this. A fantastic record of, he did 13, ripped 13 decks of cards in 30 seconds. And right now again, if things continue to go well, when the day is set, we'll do this at the arena in Binghamton. We'll do it to raise some money for charity, because I always attach a charity to every world record I do. I never do them for the sake of them. I attach a charity to it. So yeah, so those are the records. And as a matter of fact, here I have this here. I don't know if you can see this here, but you can still see if I get this the right way. Yeah, see how it's still sealed and the cellophane there and everything. Okay, so I'm going to open up the package. Oh, sorry. Now this is embarrassing. It takes me longer to open up the package than it does to rip the cards. Okay, but I don't have much fingers, so just hang in there with me. I promise I'll get it. So you're gonna make these faces. This is part of the process. It's plastic. Oh, get these out here. See, when you go live, it always gets harder than it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? Get them out of here. Okay. All right. So we have a full deck of cards here. Okay. Now I'll tell you what. You get to say go. Okay. You get to say go. You want to go 3, 2, 1? I could do these a little bit better, actually, but my hands are all sweaty because I'm nervous being on your show. So, so when I get some chalk on my hands, we'll go a little quicker too.
That was incredible. I just blinked and it was torn into. I don't know how you do that. You must have very, very strong hands. Do you do exercises with your hands to be able to do this? What is I'm just thinking about that, with your fingers and your wrists and things. How does that work?
Yes, I train them, my hands, so many different ways. I mean, I have the most bizarre exercises that, again, have been passed down to me by fellow strongmen. So the guys are a little bit older than I have that have retired have said, look, do this, do this, do this. And I'm telling you, we have things that to get your hands and your wrists strong and your forearms. A lot of people use those squeezy tools there, and that's great. But there's so many other ways. They're called grippers. But there's so many other ways to train your hands, because it's kind of a nervous system thing too. So you really have to get your nervous system used to tearing these things, because I mean, you'd see my hands, but they're all, I don't know, there's like scars all over my hands, because when you rip decks of cards, it takes so much force to do it. They're gonna cut right into your hands sometimes. So as you're tearing them, you have to get your hands built up to that type of punishment. And then it's kind of like cauliflower ears. After a while, it's hard to get more cauliflower ear just because they're already so damaged. It's kind of like that with your hands too. So you have to build up to it. Yes, but I have so many exercises out there that I do, and I do them 4 times a week. So I keep my forearms and my hands definitely the best that they can be. Plus, it helps if you're grabbing a hold of a gi too, right? When you're grabbing a hold of people, you have that grip strength. So I like to think when I grab a hold of something, it's going to stay.
Just another way to choke someone, right? Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I think sometimes people see everything that's on the shows, and they see the world record being broken, and they see the success, but they don't see that hard work behind the scenes. There are injuries that comes with the territory. Even in martial arts, if you really go into the bunkai and the full contact, there are repercussions. You do get hurt, you do have injuries. And I don't think people always really think about that, is that you are actively sitting there practicing, getting these injuries healing again, refining your art. So that takes a lot of dedication. And I read something here on the topics. I want to ask you about this topic that you listed. It said fractions equal feet, and then it said mind performance training. I think that's two different things. World records, 101 fever, and broken fingers. Tell us some more about any of those that you want to elaborate on these topics, because I love the topics that you chose. They're very interesting.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So fractions equal feet. I will tell you, excellence is cleverly hidden in the ability to problem solve. You're going to run across problems. If you're trying to become the best you can be, you are going to run across problems. There's just no way around it. And that's the, people see that as a problem. And I use the word problem to explain, but it's an opportunity. That's the thing. It's going to get you better, but you have to problem solve it. And so I can tell you a story. Years ago, back in my day, I was pursuing the 700-pound deadlift, which I was able to do 740, but I was doing 675, 690 in that, and it was really almost, I would say, fairly easy relative to what in other words, I would get to 700 and I would miss the lift, but I was doing 670, 675, 680, 690, and so I was talking to my coach, and he said, Bill, it's got to be a mental thing. I said, Coach, I'm telling you, it is not up here. This is not it. I know what that is. I know what it feels like. I've been through it. This is not it. So he said, you know what? Send me a video. Make a recorded deadlift from the front and directly from the side, and get the best quality you can. Back in this day, there wasn't the best quality we have now. It wasn't high resolution, that is for sure. But you know what? This coach found, and this is why I say it was like a quarter of an inch where my hips, and in this lift, it was tiny amount. And in a deadlift, without getting too technical, you have to move your hips into the bar, so that stops the bar from drifting away from you. Well, I was moving my hips very quickly, but not at the right time. And that left a tiny gap. And when you're close to the maximum effort that you can have, as strong as you can possibly be, those micro, just fractions of an inch, they will show up. I always tell people too, don't run from your weaknesses, strengthen them. Stop running from your weaknesses, because that's where you're going to improve. That's where you're going to get better. But you have to have the courage to face them. So my coach said, Bill, your hips are fast, but your timing is wrong. So he said, I want you to go down your basement. I want you to get a bar, and I want you to do 1,000 deadlifts. So I sat down there for hours, deadlift, practicing slow reps, just with a bar, just technique. You know why we were doing this? To change the pathway in my brain, to make my nervous system re-execute, to adjust and problem solve. And then it was like a week later, I was deadlifting 740 pounds. And that's to get a 50-pound swing out of that, roughly, just because of a technical thing, right? So I always tell people, sometimes it looks like you're a mile away, and you're not. You're a fraction of an inch away, but you got to problem solve. You got to problem solve. And again, Juanita, notice I didn't problem solve by myself. I went to other people who I knew could help, who I knew cared about me. And they were able to partner with me and say, look, this is the issue, right? But he took the time to do this. And this is what makes champion. Nobody's going to go anywhere by themselves. You need a team. And he was able to find that. And it taught me a great lesson. I would have never found it. I needed him to do it. And then once he found it, then the numbers came, and it led to world records. And again, thank the Lord above. And world championships too, because that's really the lift that wins your world championships. And then, of course, I thought, geez, this is a great thing to talk about as a speaker too, because it's, you think you're a mile away. I mean, you get so frustrated, and you're crying, and you're angry, and and sometimes we're wasting a lot of energy going through all these emotions when maybe if we just sat back and said, okay, number one, am I capable of this? If the answer is this, if the answer is yes, then you move to step number two. What do I have to do to become, right? To make this talent that I have come to fruition? How am I going to do this? That's your problem solving. So you got to go back and you got to get with other people, because sometimes we tend to, at least I do, tend to see things a little bit too close to the forest, right? That's the expression. So you need to get back, and sometimes it's hard for us, but other people could do it. So it takes a team.
It does. Wise words right there. I agree with you. Sometimes it's just that little tweak. And because we are so close to the forest, we don't see that. We look for the answers, but we can't put our finger on it. And that's like what you said. That's why we need the input of others. Coming back to, building new neurological pathways, I agree with you, because we learn in the martial arts, if you teach yourself a move the wrong way, it takes hundreds of times to reprogram your mind to do it the right way, because you built up that muscle memory. Your body is now used to doing it the wrong way. So you have to, redo it like you did those 1,000 reps. You have to redo it multiple times to reprogram yourself to say, well, this is the way, that I'm supposed to do it. So I love that, absolutely. And I read something about broken fingers. Now let's talk a little bit about the injuries that you've had. Have you had, what during the course of all the events that you've done, all the world records, all the training? What were some of the injuries that you had, and how did you recover? What was the recovery time?
So yeah, I've had a number of injuries, of course. I mean, it's just part of the game. I mean, one mistake with that much weight. I mean, my fingers have all been broken from grappling. I mean, they all get torn apart. That's just part. Again, that's part of it. You're going to break your toes. You're going to break your fingers. Like right now, getting ready for new world records, I'm going to be much more cautious about what I do with my hands. So I will tape my fingers and make sure that they're doubled up and secured. Other than that, if they break, well, you put a popsicle stick in there and tape them up and keep going. But yeah, I've had torn rotator cuffs. There's 4 parts to the shoulder, 4 rotator cuffs, right? 3 in the front, 1 in the back. And if I'm getting my anatomy right, but yeah, I've torn them numbers of times. And this is an interesting story too. I wanted to be the first guy to bench press over 500 pounds that had been drug tested in my weight class. So I had injured my shoulder, and I went to my doctor, and he said, "Bill, you got a nasty rotator cuff." He goes, "It's torn. It's not 100% tear, but it's bad." And he goes, and you're running the risk of surgery, and it's really not. He goes, "I wouldn't advise it." He goes, "But I know how you are. So I can shoot it up with some cortisone. It's not going to heal it, but it's an anti-inflammatory, this type of thing." So I was talking to one of my coaches, and he said, "Look, I've got this great shoulder guy that works with the pro teams down in Washington, D.C. The guy's amazing. So we go down and see him. I'll set it up." So I did. The doctor down there, a very nice man, but he came in and he goes, "This is never going to happen." He goes, "You are never going to bench press this much weight and he goes, and I said, "It's a shoulder." And he said, no. He goes, "No, not at your body weight, your frame." And I'm not, I mean, there's some people that are 300 some pounds. I'm by no means in that category. I'm 200. And I actually competed at 198, but I would weigh about 215. And right now I'm probably about 220. But, he said, this is just insane. He goes, "You just don't have the frame to lift that much weight. And that's why your shoulder ripped the way it did to begin with." He goes, "So I'm advising you to not do this, because it could end up in, you're going to have 500 pounds come crashing on your chest." Now we have spotters there, so they'll be there. And I trust these people. They're pros. But he said, this is a very dangerous thing. Anyway, so I was driving home from DC, and I got thinking about it. And I said, I'm thankful that this doctor gave me his opinion. However, that doesn't mean I have to take it. And I came up with this expression that now I've actually heard in the movies now, but apparently it's caught on. But and gosh, what did I say? Oh, the insanity of the plan is inconsequential if you can do it. And I got thinking, yeah, because the guy called me crazy. And I suppose, right, because you could be crazy in the wrong direction, and there's crazy in the right direction. So I said, you know what? He may have said this, but that doesn't mean that I still can't do it. So I went back to my doctor, and he said, okay. He goes, I'm with you. He goes, you have spotters there. So he gave me a shot of cortisone, which is perfectly legal. And, a couple of weeks later, my shoulder was feeling a little bit better. And then long story short, we went and we were able to break the record, break the world record at the time. It's long since been broken now, but back then it was a world record. And, it's you have to be willing to I guess, take on those risks when it is optimal to do so. Look, if you can only bench press 200 pounds and you're trying to do 500, then you're crazy in the wrong direction. But if you can do it and you can, then you have to have the faith to step forward. And getting back to the finger thing, there was another one where I was breaking the world record for the one-handed deadlift. And I did over 400 pounds with one hand. But I had broken my finger. So I had broken my finger with the hand I'm going to deadlift with, of course. And it kept falling out of socket, which is bizarre. But the thing would just so I would take it and snap it back in place. And then it would just fall back out, and I'd snap it back in place. Well, of course, I'm at this competition, and wouldn't you know, I'm warming up. I've got 315 pounds, and I go to 365, and there goes the crazy finger again. So I snap it back in place. The thing is all swollen. So, but I'm going to be holding on to this weight with one hand. Now, there's a special grip that we use, but still, if you've got a broken finger, it's going to be hard to hold on to 400 pounds. But you know what? I never felt a thing. I never felt a thing until after. And there again, this is thing. People have been taught for years block out pain, block out pain. You actually can't block pain. It's a physiological response. But you can only concentrate on one thing at a time. If you concentrate so hard on letter B, you don't have time for letter A. So if I'm focusing so hard on my technique, then I don't have time to feel the pain. I can't block it, but I can stop myself from feeling it by concentrating so much on something else. I never felt a thing. I made the lift, put it down, and then yes, I felt it afterwards. But that's again, that's kind of, and that's an added challenge too, And I'll share one more quick story if you have time. Are we running out of time?
Please continue. We are not running out of time, so please go. We love your stories.
Well, thank you very kindly. I just don't want to take up, I don't want to be that guy that is invited and then just never leaves the house, So, I had bronchitis before the World Championships one year, and this was I had strep throat actually before the Nationals too, but that's another thing. And so I was on the airplane, strep throat, throwing up. It was the poor people around me. Although I was going to the bathroom to try to throw up, but it was bad. Anyway, I ended up winning the Nationals with strep throat. Again, thank the Lord. And I say I never mean I mean we, right? But I had bronchitis, and my personal doctor said, Bill, he goes, you got a fever. He goes, this is not good. I mean, we don't want to get pneumonia from this thing. You don't want to run your body down anymore. So I changed my routine. I changed my workout routine leading up to this to try. I would go to sleep. I would go to sleep in my workout sessions. My training partner would come over and say, Bill, it's time. I would go do the lift, then go back and go to sleep. That's how tired I was from this bronchitis. So I had a fever going in, and I called my coach up and I said, look, I got good news. And of course he thinks, I said, I've got bronchitis. And he goes, how in the world is this good news? I said, because now when we win, we will truly deserve it. So now is an opportunity to overcome even more. I knew we could do it, but you have to go out, and anybody can talk, right? You have to go out and behave. You got to get it done. And to me, I said, look, I've got it. I can't get rid of it. I mean, the antibiotics will take some time and it will go away, but I have it. I have this right now. So I can either back out of the meet, or I can say, you know what, here it is. And since I can't get away from this, we might as well enjoy it. And so I learned to enjoy my fever and my bronchitis while still being blessed to be able to win the world championships. But that is the power of the mind, right? And I would be back, and I mean, I was out. I mean, I'd be sitting in the chair, falling asleep. My coach would come over and tap me, and But again, it's crazy. I like to think it's crazy in the right direction, but sometimes, my friend Juanita, I'm not so sure.
Well, when we've decided we're going to do something, a fever and bronchitis, that didn't keep you from what you wanted to do. But I've had bronchitis before, and I know it is so tiring because it affects the lungs, of course, then the oxygen intake. So you can't do, long training or long training sessions at a time. But just the fact that you still went to the tournament, you still competed, and with your mindset, you won, that is showing that real spirit, that real passion for what you're doing. And that's what's inspiring people and speaking to a lot of people in the audience today, because I know there's people out there that are facing things, and often they want to turn the other way and they want to run. And I always tell people, you face those fears, you face those obstacles head on. That's the only way to deal with it. And believe you me, if you just believe in yourself, you are going to come out okay on the other side. Maybe you'll be victorious. Maybe you would have learned a lesson, but you will get through it. So, that's the information that I'm getting from your life. I mean, to lift up all those pounds with one hand and your finger keeps popping out. That is just the fact that you went and you still did it is amazing, and absolutely love the information that you're sharing. Now, I'm looking at, the things that you've done, Bill, and I've met you, and, the energy that you have, that drive. And I want to ask you, because I always tell people the choices we make is the life that we live. And I want to ask you about choices. What is one of the best choices that you've ever made in your life?
Well, first and foremost, having Jesus Christ in my life, being a child of God, that is number one. Nothing else for me is possible without that. That by far outweighs everything. As a matter of fact, I will tell you, without God, I wouldn't have made any of the choices I made. These were all, and if I look back at my life, what I'll see is that I would go from one thing to another, and all these dots didn't seem to be connected. Like for a while, I was a police officer. I left being a police officer so I could go back to my athletic life. But for a while, I was a police officer. That's something I wanted to do. And now I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, and I was a school teacher. I wanted to help kids out. I thought, geez, I could share lessons with them. I can help them. I'm a strength coach. But all these different things that seem to be unconnected, only God had the power to take those and draw the line between 1, 2, and all of a sudden make it straight. Only God had the ability, because my life was all over the place. I mean, if you look at where I was and where I was and how I was conditioned as a child to go through that, it's absolutely miraculously. It's just a miracle to me to watch those things unfold. So that would be the first decision. The second decision, my gosh, boy, that's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, I've had so many that I look at and go, boy, I'm glad I did this. I'm glad I did this. I think having choosing to become an athlete for me was very important, because it changed the way I see the world. It took a kid who had almost no confidence, because I was wearing the same shirt to school every day, right? We didn't have money. I always tell people it's it's every kid's dream to have chocolate cake for dinner or cookies for dinner. But when that's all you have, sometimes then it gets old fast. You know what I mean? And again, I don't want anybody leaving the show today thinking anything different. My mom was a beautiful, beautiful, since gone to be with the Lord with my dad, but a beautiful, beautiful human being, but had problems, had illnesses, and she wasn't always around. So you give a kid the choice between, a salad and cookies. What's the kid going to pick? I know what this kid picked, but being an athlete totally changed the way I saw the world. And, I had such incredible people that um, just amazing influence on me. We had a psychologist at the Olympic Training Center, just an incredible influence on me. And I didn't spend a ton of time with her. I spent as much time with her as I could, but she taught me so much that everything we see, everything we smell, everything we hear is stored in the brain forever. And everything we do changes the chemistry of our blood. There's no such thing as a neutral thought. And back in my day, this was all anecdotal stuff, but now through the Brain Institute out of Texas, we can watch it. We can see the brain light up. So we know when we're thinking negatively and we know when we're thinking positively. So being an athlete for me was, it's funny, I don't even know if I chose that. I think other people kind of said, I think, Bill, you'd be good at this, and come with me, kid. And it kind of pulled me back. But gosh, it's led to so many opportunities for me to give back. Right? It's one thing to go out and have objectives and then meet them, but I think so many people stop there. And for me a tremendous honor and privilege to be able to give back. And so when you ask the question, what are the choices that I've made? Being excellent is 50% what you do. It's also 50% what you don't do, right? You got to walk away from all those things that will tempt you and pull you off of your path. So I would watch athletes all the time. They'd go train extremely hard. We're talking about elite level athletes, but then they would go out and get intoxicated. Well, your nervous system has to try to recover from that. And their answer was to take drugs or something like this. And okay, but that's not the lifestyle that I was going to live. So for me, I had to make choices all the time, 24 hours a day. You make choices. Things come your way and you have to decide, choose. This is not going to work for me because of who I am. This will work for me because of who I am. So you have to know who you are. In order to become your best, you have to know who you are. And everything I do, I try to do. Listen, I make my mistakes. There's no question about that. But I'm constantly trying to choose the best things that I can to further who I am, and then bring other people along too. So I would say, those two things would probably be the most important. One far less than the other, but still, nonetheless, it allows me to give back.
And that's what you are all about, giving back, helping in society, uplifting others, edifying them, being that example, and spreading that faith. It's amazingly refreshing to speak to someone who, has a strong faith and foundation in God, who gives God the glory for everything that He does for us daily. And here at Meticulous, one of our hashtags is gratitude. And we are so grateful to the Lord for what He has done. I actually looked today because I was thinking about the anniversary of Meticulous Moments, and I went and I looked at the first interview, and it was 20 June 2022. Now, I'd researched Meticulous and what I wanted to do since 2020, but I only launched in 2022. And I sat here at the table and I said, thank you, God. Look at how far you've brought us. Look at all the lives that have been touched, all the amazing people that we've met. And I know, Bill, that you are touching lives. You are meeting amazing people, and you are really transforming this world into a better place through your leadership. So thank you so much. I feel like every word that you've spoken this evening are words of wisdom. But if you would have to leave the audience with one, thought, one final thought of wisdom, what would that be?
Believe. Hope is nice. Hope is nice. But when you hope, there's an element of doubt. When you believe, you are resolved in the outcome. So believe. And then go out and go get it. Chase it, run it down, love along the way, be the best person you can possibly be, and believe.
Absolutely beautiful and so true. And, audience, this was just an amazing session with an impeccable human being, a son of God, martial artist, strong man, someone with a sound faith. Thank you, Bill, for gracing us, this evening and for sharing your faith and your thoughts and your wisdom. We really appreciate it. And it was so much fun having you here on Meticulous. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
And thank you so much for having me. An absolute honor to be with you. And believe me, I'm nothing special. Just found a path, and God took me where He wanted me to be. I'm nothing special. Just, just I would say, if you find what I've done to be inspirational, then take it to the next level. So thank you very much. I love you all. Juanita, thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely phenomenal. The deepest gratitude to you, Bill. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you soon. We'll be in contact. Have a fantastic day. Goodbye.